Hello, it is Wednesday, the 6th of November, and the results of the US election are in much quicker than I was expecting, and much quicker, I think, than most people were expecting. It just goes to show how misled we have been by traditional media and how fast things are changing. Because if you had listened to traditional media, you would have thought that they were neck and neck, too hard to call. The polls, everything was so misleading. In fact, the only place that was kind of really bullish and Trump is going to win was Twitter. And it turns out that Twitter was right. And I have to say, I was kind of thinking, God, are we being manipulated here or what's going on? But it's true. And for me, that's kind of a really positive thing, that we are getting more truthful information. Let's hope that continues. So the problem is everyone's got really excited because it was a big surprise. For me, the biggest surprise that was when CNN reported that Kamala Harris did not outperform Joe Biden to his 2020 results in a single county in the entire of United States. She underperformed in every single voting district, bar none. None of them preferred her over Joe Biden in 2020, which I think is completely shocking. Anyway, that's done now. He's won. Here's the problem. He's not actually going to be president for another 11 weeks. On Monday the 20th of January is when he gets sworn in. And, not everything is going to change overnight. He has to appoint a lot of people. His election will be voted on by the government on the 6th of January, and then he gets sworn in on the 20th. So we've got 11 weeks to wait, really. There's only so much we can kind of price in and anticipate. What we have seen is really kind of amazing bullish moves in stocks. When you look at what some of them have done, Tesla up 14%, S&P futures 2.5%, Bitcoin a massive new high, which is pulled back on. And I want to talk about that because before we get too kind of excited, we can't kind of price everything in before it happens. And we do have 11 weeks to wait. Now, do I think it's really good for crypto and for so many things? When we look at all of the things he said he's going to do, abolish the Fed, tariffs on China and all imported goods and anyone dealing with BRICS, they're going to be a really big deal. Certainly for the UK, America is our biggest export market. 22%, I think, of all of our exports go to America. So it's going to be really interesting. Big changes are coming, and I'm excited. One of the best things I think about Trump, and I am no big Trump fan at all, but I think the best leaders surround themselves with really, really good people, and he has surrounded himself with really, really good people, which makes me a little less worried about how incredibly old he is and funky. He can be a little... Yeah, let's not go there. I'm not going to take sides. I would like to talk, though, about what it means for Bitcoin and what are we going to do between now and the 20th of January. So let's take a look first off at the Bitcoin chart. Pretty much everything rallied on this news. But there's no doubt about it that Bitcoin is leading the way. My problem is Bitcoin has this really nasty habit at highs and lows of making a high and then making a slightly higher high and pulling back. We saw that in 2021. We retested the April high and then we had a little bit of a nasty pullback, didn't we? Here, even on the lows, and even shorter term Bitcoin tends to do this. On the lows, we made a low, 2 weeks later, slightly lower low and reversed. So when we do that and we make a high and we can't keep going, or the momentum stalls and we fall back too far, that's usually a little bit of a sign that perhaps we're not going to go. Now, for now, I think it looks really bullish, and we are holding above those highs from March. And if we continue to do that, that's all good. There are a couple of levels that I would really like to see hold if this is going to keep trending higher. If I put my fibs from this high to low, quite often that 886 fib on a back test is where your shorter term trend support is. So if we do that this way, from this high to this low, that would be 71,000. It's basically 70,959. And I think when this weekly candle closes this week, you know when we make big thrust candles like this. So for example, from this beginning of September low, we've had these big weekly green candles. We have not closed more than 50% back on them, and we've kept going higher. So if we keep applying this rule and we wait till this weekly candle closes, I wouldn't want to see it back more than kind of 50% of the open close of this weekly candle. For now, I'm thinking, it's only Wednesday, we've got a few days. Let's see if this is going to keep going after this big spike that we have had. And let's watch out for it, not to pull back too far, because that's the bullish argument. If we keep going, I don't see, here we are holding above 70,000, we're sideways at 75,000. I don't see anything to stop 80,000 next. Now, that's the bullish argument, and I am very firmly in that bullish camp, right? When I compare, look at what we've done since the November 2022 low. We've had 5 waves up, 3 waves sideways in this correction in 2023 that ended in September 2023. And I think that we've done 5 waves up from that low, which makes this for me a wave 4. And I have firmly believe that these wave 2s and 4s, if they're not equal in price, are very often equal in time. And if we do that, as I said before, for this wave 2 here, you can see that where we made this low at the beginning of August kind of lines up with that, and kind of adds up with that low being a major low, and we are on our way swinging higher again. There are a couple of things that make me nervous. Let's talk about what they are. Now, in a correction, as you know, I'm a zigzag girl, which means I'm always looking for that 3-wave correction like we had here to be saying we're going up again. Now, I kind of like this as a 3-wave correction. I saw this here as a 3-wave correction like this. This is one of those false retests of the lows, and here we are on our way up again. The problem is that sometimes these corrections, let's get rid of my scribbles, can sometimes just be bigger corrections. So I'm always watching this to make sure it's not like a 3-wave measured move. So I think that this is a very nice bullish pattern so far. So I'm watching this to make sure it's just not a leg before we see another leg low. And we could do that, before he comes into office. We could do something like this and have a pullback. When did he get elected? 20th of January, that's here. Wouldn't be weird. So what would say that that's what's going on? Sometimes when you look for a 3-wave correction, so the first one will be nice and simple, then the second swing, and then this final, the third swing will be very interesting 5 waves before it's finishing. You're doing like an ending diagonal. If I go down to the daily here and I look at what we've done for this low and why I'm so interested in this high up here, is when you make that pattern, so you'll do 3 waves up, 3 waves back, and then you'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a big 3-wave move. Okay, I'm a little bit worried that that's maybe what we did here. So we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't quite. I can see 5 waves in the middle here. I'm just, yeah. I don't want to fail at this level and fall back too far. And I think that potentially may be a little bit of the pattern that we are seeing here. And let's talk about why. So if this was our first swing low, so this middle one can't be the shortest. So, and it was shorter than this first swing. So if I go this the other way and I measure this middle swing, that means that this final leg can't be longer than this middle leg, right? So if we go from here to here, you can see that we are already above that. So I think that that bearish pattern is probably not what we're seeing here, and we are likely to keep going. But I'm just always a little bit wary, you know, when you do that false breakout thing. I don't think that's what's happening here at the moment. I think having gone beyond last week's high and holding above them, I think we keep going. So let's talk about where our targets might be. Well, if we have begun with this low on the 5th of August, a new wave 5, if this is our first swing off the lows, 5 waves up, 3 waves back, here's our next swing. You can see that this middle swing was 2.618 of the first swing. That's a very common relationship. What's very common is that the first wave and the 5th wave have a relationship, either equal measured move, 1.618 of the first swing or 2.618 of the first swing. And if I do that from the low that we made in November 2022, so I've measured from this low to this high, I've projected it from the 5th of August low, which is where we think we started new wave 5, and you can see here we are at this 1.618 level, 74,400. And so for me that was quite an interesting level for us to pause at. It makes sense because of this relationship to wave 1, and if we continue above it, our next upside target will be where we are 2.618 of wave 1, which is at 89,985, basically 90,000. So I think that we've got an interim round number level at 80,000, but if we keep going based on this pattern that we've made, my next upside target, although I see us having maybe a little bit of a wobble at 80,000, would be 89,985. Before we get there though, we may have a little bit of sideways consolidation just because we are getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves, and it's going to be 11 weeks until we get this new administration. And one of the other reasons, if we look, right, so if I've gone down to a daily chart, so I've measured this first swing from the low we made in November 2022 to the high here that we made on the 14th of April, and I projected it from this high. If I do that and I look at what we did at these fib levels, you can see that each one of them we really did have a reaction. So from this low here, you can see when we got to the equal measured move level, which is at 64,789, we did have a big pullback. When we got to the 1272, we had a big pullback, and here we are potentially again at this, you know, level where we are 1.618 of that first swing, and so it could be that we see a pullback here, but as long as we don't make a new low, in other words take out the previous swing low, we're still trending higher. But I wouldn't be surprised as everything calms down if we don't go a little bit sideways before we continue higher, just because this is one of these levels. Now if we look at what we've done before at these levels, well, this was a bit of a 2-week pullback, this was 10 days, you know, and then we got down to 5 or 6 days, so I don't think it's going to be that long, but that's the level that I'm looking at. And if we continue above 74,400, I think there's a round number wobble at 80,000, but 90,000 should be where we continue to next relative to this big wave 1 that we've made. And that's a very common relationship between wave 1 and wave 5 in Bitcoin. So that's where I see us going, but at the moment I don't think it's a good place for new buys until we see a little bit of a pullback. One thing I see a little bit everyone talking about today is the Bitcoin difficulty level. This is Coin Wars, and if I zoom out on this chart all the way back to we can go all the way back to 2014 here. Let's expand it. You can see for the first time Bitcoin difficulty is over 100. It's 101 for the first time. I haven't quite got to the end here. You can see this is a proper really nice trend. I have to say that I'm not too worried about this, even though a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know that there's that much of a correlation between Bitcoin mining difficulty and price. And I actually think that the higher price goes, the better it is for this, because, you know, Bitcoin mining is a very competitive business. It's very capital dependent, and if we were seeing this difficulty increase in price, not up there at the highs, I would say that might be a problem, because it forces the smaller miners who are more cash strapped and likely to be having more difficulty with this, more likely to sell their Bitcoin. In fact, I think in October, at the beginning of October, miners on average were spending 100% of their total mine supply. And then in October, we got a bit of a period where they were retaining a portion of it and adding to their treasury reserves. August and September were pretty difficult times for Bitcoin miners. So they are kind of not too difficult of a spot, even though we are seeing this a lot of news about the Bitcoin difficulty being out there. So I'm not too worried about that unless Bitcoin prices fall too far. So a lot of people have made pretty nice Bitcoin trades, not Bitcoin trades, but Trump trades that have worked really well. And I think all of them may be, we may see some profit taking in those people that have put those trades on. But I don't see it as a big trend reversal. It's just we've got to get through the next 11 weeks and see, there are far too many politicians who promise and then don't always do what they're going to do. I'm really hoping this guy does a lot of what he says he's going to do. But let's see. So I've got a couple of requests. One of them is to look at Total 3. One thing that was very good about the moves today in Bitcoin was how pretty much everything had a really nice bounce today, and quite a lot of altcoins, unfortunately, are at resistance. So what I really like here in this Total 3 chart, when I look at the lows that we made back in December 2022, I kind of also see this as a wave 1, 2, 3, especially with the relationships between these. If I measure this first swing higher, project it from here. Here's our 3-wave correction. Actually, it's not quite there, is it? It's there. We had a nice pause at this 1.618, went all the way to the 4.236 fib. That's quite a common fib relationship. So if we project from here and we continue to new highs, 768 and then 954. But big picture, if we look at fib retrace levels, I kind of like how we have pulled back into these weekly moving averages and are finding some support here. One thing that maybe we might see a little bit more sideways is this looks a little bit 3 waves at the moment. We still need another leg higher, and we can't, we have to say that this clearly we're sideways at a resistance level, which has been resistance since the beginning of September. So I think if Bitcoin can break out, hold new highs and keep going, then we should see this total chart continue, and we are on the way with our 5th wave. It's just, we need to be a little bit careful. And, we've also got the Fed tomorrow. Let's not rule that out. So that's where we are with Bitcoin and Total 3. For me, pull back when you flip all your weekly moving averages bullish, pull back into them for support, then yeah, it does look like we will have an altcoin rally to follow Bitcoin, and looking really good for that. Hope that's useful. So I'm going to do a separate update with altcoins once everything calms down a bit. Let me know if there's anything you'd like.